Alright. What's really going on? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Today, going to be taking a look at XRP, Ripple against USDT. Going to be taking a look at some of these key technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be looking at some of the pivotal areas of support and resistance I believe we're going to be interacting with in the very near future here. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you trade? Do you hold? Or do you let the price action unfold? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? What do you do with your bag if you have one? Do you think price action has found support and we're headed back upward to that multi-dollar kind of range that we just kind of came from, or are we bearish still and we're going to plow through potential support and interact with these kind of lower levels that we've been kind of trapped in for a kind of prolonged period of time not too long ago? Let me know your thoughts on price action down in the comments down below there. Now, jumping right into it to kind of recap price action that has interacted with this ascending trend line since kind of like the 13th of March of 2020. We do have price action kind of above and below. That's kind of supporting the uptrend here. We do have an example. If we consider price action kind of from the end of kind of November, or sorry, the beginning of November, end of October, we have examples of price action like pumping upward, entering a phase of accumulation, and then breaking downward. So that's kind of like upper phase of accumulation was just about a month. Upon finding significant resistance at this kind of swing high, the 24th of November, resistance found around 72 and kind of like 79 cents is going to be a kind of significant level moving forward. Resistance found at that range brought us down, plummeting through all that potential support to interact with this kind of lower phase of accumulation that lasted kind of like a good like 38 days kind of thing before we kind of broke up again into a sort of like upper sort of mid phase of accumulation after getting rejection off of that kind of key zone, that 72 cents to 79 cent range. Very significant resistance still at that time brought us down to a higher low kind of phase of accumulation, interacting with resistance found at like 62 cents, and ultimately support kind of found around 46 cents. Brought us bullish enough to hold back above that ascending trend line to kind of plow through that kind of significant resistance range at that 62 cent level, all the way to that 72 cents and 79 cents. We did set some very significant higher highs. We plowed all the way through $1, all the way up to almost $2, getting to about $1.95, interacting with some resistance, a little bit of a swing high there. Came down, found support at like an upper level, potential support found around $1.06 and $1.15. Price action rallied upward, printing these kind of like lower highs, resistance at a kind of like a lower point, a kind of like lower high relative to that swing high, the 14th of April there. Resistance found at that level was significant enough to break us all the way downward, even though we were looking quite bullish, and a break upward was the more likely thing to occur. In my opinion, this break downward was also not impossible, and momentum changed very abruptly. And so I believe a fake out occurred on the 18th of May. Momentum changed very abruptly on the 19th, and then on the 20th we had a little kind of mini retest of that sort of symmetrical-esque sort of triangle pattern that we were trading in for those kind of couple weeks prior. And then we found kind of now resistance between this kind of $1.06 and $1.15 level that we've kind of like fallen through. Support found above 72 cents. We can still be more long-term bullish. We can be more short-term bullish again if we can hold 79 cents. In my opinion, that's going to be a more kind of bullish short-term target of support that if we can hold, we can suspect interaction with that $1.06 to be kind of like sooner than later. Ultimately, we could be very much bearish enough or be interacting with sell pressure significant enough to kind of hold price action quite sideways all the way until my kind of ascending trend line here. Interaction with that ascending trend line would still be kind of quite bullish long term and would kind of hold the trend long term in my opinion. Although if we do start to get bearish enough and start closing kind of below that level, we can kind of recess the analysis from there, and perhaps some more mid to longer term bearish accumulation might occur. Ultimately, we're still looking quite bullish long-term, in my opinion, although some short-term sideways could play out, as we do have some previous examples of price action taking, tens of days to perhaps like months to, kind of play its way out. But when we consider EngineeringRobo, along with the Fibba Zucchini Illuminati lines of Lamborghini, Geometry, Symmetry, and Illuminati, again, we can see new perspective come into play here. When we consider that 0.5 line at $1.03 is going to solidify significant local resistance, I believe, at that range, kind of just below my $1.06 line. 0.382 Fibonacci line at 81 cents is going to be significant local support and even more bullish level that we can hold above my 79 cents and above 72 cents there. Those are kind of all my sort of like bullish bear targets that I could still be kind of bullish on XRP even if we find ourselves down at those levels. That 200 daily moving average is going to be very pivotal for the trend long term, in my opinion. Price action staying above that 200 daily moving average is going to suggest that we are still bullish long term, and interaction with that trend line and with that moving average near my trend line there is going to be quite bullish as well. The more candles we can have kind of bouncing off of it, like the more bullish I believe the recovery will be once we start bottoming out. Now, with the kind of sell for in play and that hell kind of being in play still since the kind of 24th of April-ish there, we can suspect price action to be quite short-term bearish and some more downside continue. I believe we could very well continue to make our way back toward that 81 cent level at 0.382 Fibonacci line. Although if we have found support there, this bounce could be very significant and we could very well interact with that 0.5 Fibonacci line. Although that 0.5 Fibonacci line is going to be very significant resistance, and I believe if we don't have enough momentum to break it, we could be sent all the way back down to where we came from. So there's definitely lots going on with price action at the moment, and lots of fundamental and technical aspects to consider. The fear and greed index, as I believe, is still showing. I believe the uptrends to still be solidified in the long term. I believe interaction with that FOMO zone is pending before we can consider this. Before we can consider like a reversal and some long-term downside, I do believe we will make our way up to that FOMO zone at kind of $1.92. Saying you're like a more mid to longer term investor rather than a kind of support and resistance trader, and you held from this kind of accumulation zone, you're buying at 25 cents, 21 cents, and kind of under 27 cents. So you're bought in at your last kind of moment there, like 27 cents, and you held to our first interaction with the FOMO zone. You would have made 566% in 76 days if you sold at $1.80. And so that would be more of a kind of like midterm hold rather than a kind of trade between these kind of like very key support and resistance levels. Now, if we were to consider XRP against the price of Bitcoin, we would see a new perspective come into play when we consider this very key range that we were bouncing between for a period of weeks now. We stayed between 28.99 Satoshi and 22.66 Satoshi for a good period of kind of like 62 days, a good like 2 months, before we now appear to be breaking downward with this candle kind of like pushing below support there. This candle seems to be opening, and if we do close below that 22.66 resistance, that might confirm it as resistance, and we could very well suspect price action to become a tad more bearish, and we could find interaction with levels down at the kind of like 1824 to like 1900 Satoshi level. And so ultimately there's lots going on at the moment. We could very well be bullish enough to bounce here and find our way back above 22.66 and solidify that as support, which would be more short-term bullish. Although price action at the moment, we could, based on kind of current price action at the moment, we could very well find our way at some lower levels in the very near future here. But when we consider EngineeringRobo, along with the Fibba Zucchini Illuminati lines of zucchinis again, we can see new perspective come into play here when we consider the 0.5 Fibonacci line and the 0.618 Fibonacci line is going to be kind of key pivot points, I believe, on either side of my 22.67 kind of resistance level there. If we were to find support off that 0.618 line, we can suspect interaction with 22.67 again. If that's further confirmed as resistance, I do believe price action could be bearish enough to break the 0.618 and find our way all the way down to that 200 daily moving average, which will be my kind of like next bullish area of support that we could be bearish enough to interact with. Price action starting to close below that level would require a new analysis, and perhaps some more prolonged bearish price action could occur. But ultimately, we are still bullish long term, in my opinion, with price action being above that 200 daily moving average. With that sell for and hell present against the price of Bitcoin here, we could suspect some perhaps further downside, some short-term downside for sure. The 0.382 Fibonacci line is going to be very significant resistance near my 28.90 resistance level. The 0.382 line at 28.73 is going to kind of like support that resistance level there. When we get up to it, I believe we're going to have a lot of momentum kind of built up to kind of break it, and then once we do, we'll have to realistically come back down to it as support before we can kind of move forward. So ultimately, a lot going on with price action at the moment. EngineeringRobo still short-term bearish. Price action closing below my resistance, perhaps confirming it as resistance. I do suspect interaction with that 0.618 Fibonacci line to be pending if we don't recover kind of from where we are exactly. But when we consider Bitcoin, against USDT. We can see a new perspective come into play when we consider how this recovery is playing out. There was a very significant bounce off of just kind of above that zero point 0.5 Fibonacci line at 34,300. We found support at 35,600. This bounce does seem to be quite significant, although we seem to be slightly exhausting. If we were to fail to print some higher highs, I believe above like 42,500 kind of thing, we could find ourselves back at the levels that we kind of just came from not too long from now. There's going to be very, very significant resistance at that 41,500 level and under that 200 daily moving average. And so, I mean, if we were to get another rejection off of it, we could suspect some prolonged sideways still. I mean, we have been trapped under that 200 daily MA for a good like 27 days now, almost a month. And I mean, if we were to get that rejection off of it, we could suspect perhaps another month of continued kind of like sideways or, downside, if you will, as we find our way back toward that 0.5 Fibonacci line, perhaps even to more significant support at 32K. My most bearish target is going to be 27,000 at the 0.382 Fibonacci line. We don't look bearish enough to make our way down there, but we will have to see how the interaction with that 200 daily MA and the 0.618 Fibonacci line will play out, as that is going to be very, very, very significant resistance that could, send us all the way back down to kind of where we came from. Although this is looking like a very nice bottom, if we do bottom out here, this will be a very, nice opportunity to be buying, to be accumulating. I believe we can recover very quickly if we start seeing price action above that 200 daily MA. Until then, though, we could still suspect some very, very, very heavy sell pressure and some very volatile ups and downs, as the fundamental buy pressure of Bitcoin at these levels is ever so abundant still, but the technical sell pressure on Bitcoin at these levels is just as abundant. And so we do have that super sell 4 kind of in play, and a hell still supporting the downtrend since the 21st of April there. And until EngineeringRobo becomes bullish again, we can suspect this some very high sell pressure. And so when price action is rallying up like this, we need to watch out for pending resistance and pullbacks and retracements, and look for where support is found, kind of like higher lows, higher highs. We want to see this recovery play out as healthy as possible. Vertical pumps like this are usually met with heavy pullbacks, so be very careful when jumping into Bitcoin. Right now, there's plenty of FUD present at the moment. Thank you for hearing my analysis. Thank you for tuning in. Try EngineeringRobo free with a link in the description. Let me know what you're doing with your bag. If you have one, do you trade? Do you hold? Are you scalping during this crazy sideways? Are you holding, accumulating for the uptrend to continue long term? Did you sell at the top? Did you sell at the bottom? Do you think some more downside is present? Let me know your comments on price action in the comments down below there. Let me know your thoughts. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Thank you for tuning in. Check out all the social media down below. Subscribe here on YouTube and tune in for the next one.